An unleashed leader is someone who can get somebody else to understand that I want you, as someone within my organization, I want you to be able to feel fully in control of your input, your output, the quality of that output. I want you to be able to control your day, your time, your schedule. I want you to be able to control your financial gain, and therefore, I want you to be able to control your future the way you see it and the way only you see it and nobody else. If I can unleash that type of power on you, I feel I've done my leadership role. I'm hoping you'll have the best life possible, and that should be the goal of every entrepreneur out there.
Welcome to the Unleashing Leaders podcast, where we work with willing leaders to accelerate the changes you seek. We'll learn from the experiences of different leaders facing real challenges and distill practical, purposeful steps to apply in your context. I'm Lee Scott, your curious co-pilot. Together, let's make positive changes for our companies and communities.
Welcome back to the Unleashing Leaders podcast. Today, we have an exceptional guest that we've been working on trying to get our schedules to align for a while there. We have Ken Rusk, the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Blue Collar Cash, and is also the founder of Rusk Industries. He has been featured on numerous shows, business shows, USA Today, and the like, really being able to carry a message about how a life of abundance is possible, and not only just possible, but highly accessible to those pursuing a career in contribution via the trades. He likes to talk about growing up as a ditch digger and creating massive abundance and impact for his communities, for his families, and his employees along the way. Ken, it is awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks, Lee. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you having me here today.
Oh, yeah. Love your energy, love your story. And I have been a huge fan and a huge advocate of folks being able to say there are many paths to abundance and fulfillment. Not all of them involve accruing six figures in college debt and working a grind behind a desk. That there's actually very much fulfillment in being in the trades, being able to physically work, make a difference for your community and your customers. So love to start by hearing a little bit more about your story. What was your personal journey and where did you discover this superpower you have? And then we'll take it from there.
Well, when I was younger, I always had part-time jobs. My brothers and I always did something. At 12 years old, I was working in a bowling alley and working at a bakery, doing paper routes, all that kind of stuff.
You were a hustler from day one, right?
Yeah, it's true. My father, he was a pretty hardcore Marine, and he ran our little tiny house with the five of us like a barracks. And it was fun, though, because, his imperfect perfection is what kind of molded us all the way through. And he would say, hey, look, I can do so much for all of you guys, but if you want more than that, you're going to have to go out and find it on your own. And so, if I wanted that first aluminum baseball bat or that whatever, that bike or football, whatever it was, I had to go get a job and find a way to make it happen. And we did that. And I was always amazed that you could trade a few hours of labor for a thing that you wanted.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
So, yeah. And as I got older, the hours got bigger and the things got bigger. So, it's just, that's how it works. But basically, getting into the trades, I was 15. My high school shared a fence with an industrial park. And we used to cut through a hole in the fence after school and go hang out to carry out. And that's back when people did that. And I remember walking through this area, and there's all these businesses, and they were hustling and bustling, pieces and parts moving everywhere. Grown-up Tonka toys that all moving all over the place. So I went into the one spot and I said, I knew someone that worked there. I said, what do you do here? And they said, well, we dig ditches. And I said, I'm perfectly qualified for that.
I am highly qualified for that, yes.
Yeah. And I wanted my first new used car. I wanted to take my girlfriend out for pizza, whatever, go bowling with my buddies. So I signed up and I dug ditches in the summertime. And in the wintertime, I worked after school in the office. So I kind of got to know the front and back of the house, if you will. So when I was 18, they came to me and they said, hey, you want to go to college or what are you going to do? Because we'd like you to help us open branch offices around the country. So we started opening franchises. I decided to do that and forego school. And I figured, hey, if I could learn how to open a business from scratch with somebody else's money, that's a pretty good idea, right? So I did that for 4 or 5 years and then got tired of living out of a suitcase, which anyone who does that knows real well.
Yeah.
And So then I moved to Toledo, Ohio. I opened up my company in '86 with 6 people, and I think we have over 200 today. So it's been a hell of a ride.
That's amazing. That's me. You know, one of the things that stands out to me in that, Ken, is, again, similarly to you, my friend, you know, my dad was military and he was law enforcement, and my mom was an ER nurse. So it was like a combination ER room, prison, you know,
Yeah,
bring,
right.
right? And so, and people are like, oh, that must be rough. And I'm like, oh, it's the best thing ever, you know, is like, man, so
For
grateful
sure.
for all of that. But I remember distinctly, you know, because I always loved doing physical stuff, you know, and again, mow a lawn, get a paper out, and a buddy of mine had a paper, I'd help him in the morning, you know. But I remember having a counselor in high school at one point being, you know, said this to me: Lee, you're too smart to be a ditch digger. And even in that moment, Ken, I was like, what the hell's wrong with being a ditch digger?
Yeah,
You know, I was like, I mean, I love doing physical labor. Again, early years, I grew up around farms. I'm out there, you know, throwing hay. I was just like, what? And I remember even in that moment, just being like, there's something wrong with this message. Because I love working with my hands. I mean, even if I don't do it professionally, and even if I'm not very good at it, like I didn't understand. And that, I think, has really set our entire country and our economy back a little bit because of nonsense like that, Ken. So tell us a little bit about how you've been trying to elevate and combat that very ridiculous statement and be like, no, that is BS. There is a valid path to success and fulfillment.
well, that's a great question. You know, first off, by the time you put your feet on the floor in the morning to get out of bed, to the time you go to work or school, your office, church, whatever, you're crossing 10,000 blue collar jobs that are still viable today. And I would say very lucrative today.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
one thing that people don't get. Half of the country, of the 167 million people considered full employment, half of the country still today, 77 million people, do something with their hands. And
Yeah.
so it's only been stigmatized. It's certainly not gone. Okay. And it's only more powerful than ever. You know, it's interesting because even my publisher, when I wrote the book Blue Collar Cash, my publisher said the reason I chose you, and this was HarperCollins. I was so lucky, Lee. I was so lucky that I had an actual bidding war for publishers to represent my book. And
Wow.
I don't know how this happened. Again, who wants to know what a ditch digger has to say? But it happened. Okay. But one of the things that she said was, you know, all of my friends, the reason I chose this book to represent it is because all of my friends that I know that have any money are all blue collar entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And here I am with this elite school, you know, degree with all this debt. And I don't know if I'm ever going to catch up to these people. So it was, you know, that was kind of gratifying because for so long, you know, oh, my son's only a ditch digger, or my son's only, he's just, or, you know, Shirley's son's only going to be a plumber. Well, I know that plumber, okay? The guy's got 6 bands, 12 employees, and he's killing it right now. So it really is amazing how this perfect storm between, let's say, the iPhones that people live on now, okay, that they can't get away from, you know, I would say substituting that for going out and building a tree fort in your backyard or raking leaves or planting bushes or whatever, which isn't the same experience. You know, you've got teachers and guidance counselors, like you're saying, who say it's college or else, you know, you're going to be working fast food the rest of your life. Another complete fabrication. And then the schools are really, really good at shaming people into saying it's us or else. And how can you be a parent without having your kid have a degree on the wall? And all of that is just completely wrong, completely misleading. It's never been true, and it's not true today.
Yeah. Yeah. And even damaging, you know, it's not just not true. It's false to a damaging effect. Right. And I was fortunate because I had enough role models, you know, like uncle was an HVAC contractor. I saw, you know, the lifestyle that he was able to create for his family. My great uncle ran a metal manufacturing and fabrication shops. We got to go check his stuff. These were my role. I was inspired. I was excited about it. But yeah, my oldest son is an auto mechanic right now, working in the auto industry and having a great time. And whenever anybody asks him, they're like going, okay, what are your children? They're like, oh, my son's like, oh, he didn't go to college? Like that was a parenting fail or something. And I'm like,
Right.
He could, but he did some, courses and whatnot that made sense. But it's like, no, and he's more than intelligent, and he is awesome at what he does. Guess what? At 22 years old, he's driving Ferraris and Maseratis and Lamborghinis for a living, right? He's living every 22-year-old's dream, and having a great time doing it. I'm just like, and your kid is, anyways, I won't get into the comparison. Again, not knocking those other pathways, they're valid too, but I really appreciate, trying to restore some sensibility, that, these are folks that are incredibly valuable to our lives. They make our world go round. They're relatively recession-proof jobs in certain aspects of it, right? So lots to be grateful for. Well, today I wanted to zoom in a little bit, Ken, for those folks who have overcome that limiting belief and have made that choice to create an entrepreneurial pathway for themselves. Often they start as solopreneurs, right? They've got a skill, they're good at it. They realize they can trade time for money and get the things that they want, like you said. And then there's that, and that's great. That's a wonderful place to start. Let's look at now the different limits that get in their way as they're looking to transition from being the trade person and the operator and starting to grow a business or create greater impact by really becoming a leader operator, not just an operator. So what are some of the things that you find keep somebody stuck longer than they otherwise could be in that solopreneur, I'm just, doing the gigs myself? What are some of the things that get in the way?
That is, I mean, I've been on 200 or 300 podcasts. The year, I think, number 290 something. And I have to tell you, this is one of the best questions I've had in a long time. So, you have to be careful that you're not your own self-limiter here, like you just said. When I think of an entrepreneur wanting to take the next step, the first thing I think of is, what do you have and what do you do that is scalable? Like, what do you have? If you as one human being can do X amount of things, what do you have there that is replicable and scalable? Okay, so now I can get 2 of you to do this. I can get 3 of you to do this. The thing you have to remember is a true entrepreneur is someone who is almost entirely irrelevant to his company. Okay? And that's the scary part for people, because they think, well, I have to do it all. I'm Superman or Superwoman, I have to open the door, close the door. I have to turn the lights on and off. I have to do all the payroll. I have to do all the work. And then they get home on Friday and they feel like this sense of accomplishment, but they can't grow anywhere. And what happens is, all of a sudden they're 45 years old and they've got diabetes and high blood pressure because they've been working so hard, 70 hours a week. They don't even know what their kids, hobby is. Is it baseball, football, or golf, So my thing is always step back away from the business and say to yourself, is there a way that I could hover in a helicopter above this place and see replication going on? Because the only way you can be a visionary is to pull yourself out of it and to become irrelevant to it. And that hurts some people's egos because they believe I got into this business because it's mine. I'm the boss guy or I'm the boss woman or whatever. But you got to let a lot of that stuff go if you truly want to grow. And the beautiful part about that is when you do that, you're handing off the baton on some of these tasks to your intrapreneurs. And sometimes I feel like that's a word that I invented because nobody uses it.
Oh, I love it. Oh, no, I'm a big fan. I'm absolutely a big fan of that. Yeah.
So you don't know what you have until you try. And that's the thing. I'll give you a short story. A long time ago, probably 15 years ago, I was in the office and our company kind of plateaued in sales for a bit. We were still doing great, but I wanted to go to the next level. So I took the 6 or 7 people that I thought had entrepreneurial qualities, and I surrounded myself with them in the conference room. And I said, here's a piece of paper and a pencil. I want you to write down how many more millions we can do this year in business. And just so you know, as a collective group, if we hit those numbers, whatever we decide, I'm going to share some of that with you, okay? Well, wouldn't you know, they all wrote down numbers that were a lot higher than my number, okay?
You're holding back, Ken.
Well, think about it. Now, embarrassingly, I didn't even show them my number. I didn't even tell them I had a number.
Let me just hold that up and put that off to the side.
But I said, well, all right then, okay? Let's let this dog hunt. And they hit those goals, and they've been doing it every year ever since. But the difference is I try to create, I have to be careful with this. I try to create selfish people, not at the behest of others, not at the detriment of others. I mean, but selfish, that they're focusing on them and their personal goals first. Because if you're winning for yourself within my organization, I'm always going to win if there's enough of you in there doing that. And so that's the real power to it. But it does take that very first step of saying, can I pull myself out and become irrelevant? And am I afraid or fearful of doing that? Because if you're not, you're going to see growth like you've never even imagined.
Ever believed. Yeah. Well, I want to dig into that a little bit more. You mentioned it's a little bit of ego, and when we talk about the 6 fundamental human needs, we sometimes associate that to what we call significance, right? Everybody wants to feel worthwhile. Everybody wants to feel worthy, and that's not a bad thing. But like you're saying, it gets in the way, and there's a fear. So let's name the fear, because it's like this boogeyman. And I think whenever you name the boogeyman, like the boogeyman loses its power, right? Like if you can't see the boogeyman, you don't know where it's at, it freaks you out. So what is that person who's really good at that skill? Like you said, they're turning the lights on, they're doing it off. It's all me all the time. Are they afraid that the quality of the product or the service isn't going to be as good? Or are they afraid that they'll be replaced and they'll be destitute and broken and die penniless in the curb? Like, what is the thing that we're actually afraid of when we let go of that ego?
Well, first off, there is a fear of being irrelevant. I mean, obviously, we have politicians that stay in government till they're 85 years old. I mean, those people are definitely fearful of becoming irrelevant, right? So,
hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically. But what I would say is they attach their identity too closely to the tasks at hand.
Bingo.
Okay?
That's it.
Their identity surrounds the product or service that's created rather than the driving force behind the company that creates that product or service. And they also need to understand that there is a lot more joy in watching the people within your organization succeed than there is in watching yourself succeed. I believe this from the get-rip. You have to remember that any business is a linear creature, okay? There's input or work or people that comes in from the left side. There is creation, there's work, there's product, there's service, and then there's hopefully pricing, sales revenue, sales, installation, and profit. You're always on the end of that line as an entrepreneur, solopreneur. So why wouldn't you want everyone along that line to be as giddy as possible in working for themselves, creating their own career goals, their own personal goals? Because when all that happens, all that collective synergy, there's no way your company can fail that way. I mean, you're at the end of the line of a very, very profitable scenario, and everybody wins and everyone's happy, and it's a culture builder to the end.
Well, you said a couple of things. There's a lot of things in there, but a couple I want to just summarize and echo for our listeners here. You talked about identity, right? And I just did an event with Tony Robbins in Newark, New Jersey a couple weeks ago. I got to do it with my older kids, which was pretty awesome. But he talks about what a powerful force identity is. Like if you identify as a smoker, right, it will be that much harder for you to not be a smoker. Because but that's my identity. If I identify as being somebody who is a craftsman, then it's going to be hard for you to identify as being an entrepreneur. And when you have that sense of loss to the identity, like that is a powerful retention force that will hold people, that will imprison people, I would even say, way longer than it is relevant. Versus to say, yeah, I was and I am still a great craftsman, and I'm also a phenomenal entrepreneur. I am a creator of opportunities for other people's. I'm a person that inspires and attracts great talent to also be great craftspeople at what they do. So like that's a different identity. And now back to your point, I can be selfish about that. No, I am selfishly pursuing my identity as an entrepreneur, as a creator of value. And now there's not a sense of loss. There's only a sense of addition. And while that sounds like just a mental little trick, I think it's a key to allowing somebody to see themselves in a different role that allows them to have more fulfillment, not be burnout, not have the diabetes, and not know what their kids are doing, right? But you got to reframe that identity. I think that's a critical part.
Well, yeah, and one of the ways to do that is to ask yourself, well, why am I doing this to begin with? I mean, what's in it for me to create this growth? And I think that's what, a lot of people say, well, when I get money, then I'll be happy and I'll be able to spend it on things that I want. Well, what does that mean when I get, I mean,
that whole formula is just backwards and wrong.
Yeah, it's just completely backwards. So my thing is, and this is what I do with the people here at the office. In fact, I did some of this morning. You have to begin with what you want your life to look like first, okay? And I don't care whether it's, this advice, by the way, is for blue collar, white collar, pink collar,
I was just going to make
whatever.
that. Yeah, I'm thinking of some white collar clients right now that need to hear this too.
You have to know why you're doing it in perfectly clear detail. I'm talking about all the things that you manifest into your life, whether it's family or faith or charity or vacations or cars or houses or, pets, whatever. You have to have that clearly defined so you know why it is you're going to battle every day and why it is you want to expand that and go further, because the things only get cooler, nicer, better, and more fun, and the memories are even beyond all that. I always say it's not he who dies with the most things wins, he who dies with the best memories of those things wins, right?
Yeah. That's that memory dividend, right? Like, are you creating kind of memories in yourself and those you love, right?
Yeah, so for me, once I know why I'm in it, and I do every day, then I can now explore, why are my people in it? Like, what's in it for her to be here and do this? What's in it for him? What do their futures look like? When you think about it, Lee, we hire a human being, but we only get, there's 3 cycles to life. There's the 8 hours of work, the 8 hours of sleep, and the 8 hours of everything else, okay?
Yep.
Well, what's the everything else? If you don't know that, you're only getting 1/3 of the human being that you've hired into your organization.
Yeah.
There's another 2/3 of that person that you should endeavor to find out what their makeup is, because now you've unlocked some power you are not going to believe once you know what those things are.
Well, and that boils down to what I call the distinction between motivating and inspiring. Right. So if you're a leader and you're trying to motivate people, you're like, come on, you can do it. And you're encouraged. And not that that's a bad thing, right? You need to be positive. But like, you're the one putting the energy in, they're receiving it, and that's starting their motor, and then they're moving. Whereas inspiration is you find out what they're jacked up, fired up, and will chew through glass to get done. And then you just tap into that and get the hell out of the way. Right. It's like that. Now we're inspired. Like, what do you want? Oh, you want this because you want to be able to have more time with your family. You want to be able to do these great trips and have these memories. You want to make a difference in our community. Awesome. Now my job as a leader is to line that drive that's already there, that's already a deep well, and just let it flow, right? That's where we have the name Unleashing Leaders. It's like the power's in there. You just got to let it come out. You don't have to put it in there yourself. And I think that's part of what... Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. We take that to a crazy level, what you're saying, because you're spot on with what you're saying there. So in our office, we have this huge black glass board. It's like 8 by 8 feet. And we have these neon colored magic markers that you'd see at like, the margarita special of the day at a Mexican restaurant, right? And so we have people, once they commit to a goal, we have them put it on the board, but it's way deeper than just, I want to be taller or I want to go travel someday. It is, I'm going to Scotland next June. It's going to cost me $4,000. I'm saving, $40 a week for 2 years. Okay. I'm starting it in January of 2025, and I'm going to end it in January 2027. I'll be going in June after that. It's signed, dated, and it's up there. It's in action. The money's being deposited in their checking account, in the savings account through our bookkeeping, payroll department. These things are happening, and they're in action. They're live, and they're doing it. And there's 50 of them on this board. So anyone who walks up and down the hallway, these are conveniently located between the bathrooms, by the way. Anyone that walks up and down the hallway.
Pride real estate, right? Yeah.
They can see what everybody else is up to, and they high five them and they encourage them and they move along. If your goals aren't that clearly defined,
Yeah.
they remain
and public, like you said. Yeah.
Otherwise, they remain in dreamland and wishland and hopeland, and we all know that's. I mean, not that it's not good to dream, but if you don't have a timed pathway to your thing, it's just a hope. And we all know that. I mean, hope doesn't ever make that happen. It's the action and the result that does. So for us, it's all about.
I like to say, Ken, that hope is essential. It's just not sufficient. Right. You got to have some hope to get out of bed in the day, but you cannot. That is a terrible strategy and is certainly not an action plan, and it is not sufficient.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hope is for people that are waiting for life to happen to them instead of them happening to life, which I think is pretty important. So, I just like to take, the word goal is so overused. I like to interchange that with the word timed pathway. Because if I told you I had a goal to play golf in Europe next year, you'd go, okay, cool. But if I said I have a time pathway to play the home of golf in Scotland next June, you'd be like, wow, that's pretty specific. Tell me how that broke down.
Yeah.
And they're two completely different conversations, one likely to happen and one likely never to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that time pathway. It's way more kinetic, right? It's like this is baked and it's gone and it is in motion. It is not sitting in the someday aisle, right? Waiting for its boat to come. Well, I think this is helpful.
You say that because in the book, in my book, I have a whole chapter on the someday country club versus the 2-day country club and which one you should join and why.
That's the one I want to be part of. Absolutely. Well, you've started to address my second question for you is like, okay, the first limiting belief or impediment that a solo trades craftsperson might encounter is it's all got to be me, right? So we've said, hey, reassociate your identity so that it's not limiting to just you. Then the next thing I hear very often in this industry is I just can't find motivated employees, right? Nobody cares as much as I do. Nobody wants to get after it. And what you're sharing right here, Ken, is, well, yeah, because you don't want to motivate employees. You want to find out what they're motivated about. You want to find out what their time pathways are, help crystallize. And if you do that as their leader, right, hey, I'm working in this to be able to get to that, and you know what that is, and they're clear on it, you're going to tap a much greater well of energy than if you're just, I'm looking to try to find some motivated employees out here or just throwing more money at them, right? I pay them a lot. I don't know why they're not motivated. You're just like, well, you haven't tapped into their timed pathways.
Exactly right. And it's funny because I did an interview this morning, and one of the things that I start out with is, so why are you here? Okay, I'm here for a job. Okay, a job for what? Job to make money so you can do what with the money? I'll pay my bills. Okay, let's get beyond the bills. Like, what do you want your life to look like? And it's funny because they're waiting for me to say, well, this is the job, this is the hours, this is the uniform, this is your pay, this is your blah, 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 this is your time off, here's your benefits. No, I want to know exactly why you walked in the building today, and I want to know what your next 1, 3, 5, 10 years would look like to you if you could be in control of that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it blows my mind at how many times these people will look back at me and like, well, yeah, I never been asked that question before. Typically I get this bland, here's the mechanics of the job. So, for me, when someone says they can't find motivated employees, I say, you're right. You can't. Okay. But when you think about it, if that same person came in the door and you spent all your time saying, listen, if you're not winning here, nobody's winning here. So I need to know what winning looks like to you. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Because now someone's going to say, well, man, I guess if my bills were paid, I would probably buy that new F-250. Okay, that's cool. What color would it be? Mm-hmm. Well, silver. All right, that's nice. You want the Lariat or you want the King Ranch? Or
what package?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the heck is going on? You're like, no, this is what we're working
Their
for.
mind is blown.
Yeah.
Now, where are you going to live? Well, I have this house. I'd like to upgrade my house. I want to put a new deck on it and put a barbecue pit in the back. Okay, cool. Let's talk about what that looks like. You go through all that. And pretty soon they're like, I guess I am in control of my future. I guess I am in control of what I want for myself going forward. And that's where you light the fire of this independent, goal-crushing, self-managing, get out of my way, Ken, kind of machine person. And it's a wonderful transition. So to that person, I would say, start asking different questions in your interview and you'll find the people you're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once they're on, you it's not just at the interview, it's then how do you subsequently onboard and reinforcing it? Like you said, you guys have a very visible public board. Well, somebody might say, well, but yeah, we're out in the field all the time. We don't have a corporate office. Like we're just driving around in our beat up old F-250s and they're 2008s and they're on their last, mile. And you're like, well, put it on a freaking index card on your dashboard, man. Put it on top of that clipboard where you do your sales orders. Like, you guys find a freaking way, right? Like it is not impossible. But when you embrace this notion of, I know it's there, I've just got to discover it and let it come out. It's a lot different than I'm in the desert and I'm looking for water. Where am I going to find this water? It's like, that mirage is your own undoing.
Well, there was a study done once by the University of, by Virginia Tech University. And one of the things they did is they took 100 people, they put them in a room and they said, raise your hands if you have crystal clear goals. Only 20 people raised their hands, so they dismissed the 80 people. Of the 20 that's left, how many of you have those goals written down somewhere?
No. Yep.
Only 4 people admitted to having them written down, and then they said, okay, of the 4 that have you have written down, how many of you do you have them displayed somewhere, like on your wall? Only 1. Now, they followed these people for the next 10 years, and that one person made 9 times more money than the rest of them. It's not rocket science. So my point is, I've had people, I give out vision boards. I give out the crayons and the vision boards. I give them, it's already like paint by numbers. It says house, car, vacation, donation, charity. It says health, life, anything that.
Great. Yeah, so you have the whole wheel of life. You have all those dimensions. Like you said,
I have it all up there. All they have to do is they either have to start drawing or they need to start cutting out pieces like Pinterest and just put stuff on there. And you have to post that because your brain will attract itself to those things. I actually spoke, Tony Robbins did a forward for a little forward blurb on my book. And I spoke to his son a few times about how reticular activating systems works and the power that your brain has to attract itself to what it sees. Well, now what the people are doing here is they're taking a picture of their vision board and they're making it the backdrop of their phone.
Yes.
So every time they look at their phone, they reinforce what they've got. You look at your phone 100 times a day. So you're reinforcing that new Corvette or that new whatever, that new thing you want to do, whatever it might be, you're reinforcing it 100 times a day. What a powerful tool, because now it's not only here, it's at the office, it's on your wall at home. There's no way you can't do this because your brain's too powerful to allow that to happen.
Yeah, where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? And be able to have that be visible and constantly reinforce. Like you said, there's many ways. I have mine is right there. I've got it right here. I've got it on the index cards. We're coming up this time of year. We do it with our family. We do little index cards. And even my 7-year-olds, and I did this with my older kids when they were younger. Every one of them, there's 4 dimensions that we have in our life, our health, our studies, our contribution to our society. And we, you write those things down. And even my 7-year-old writes out like, I want to be a better brother. I want to help more with the chores. I want to learn. And it's in that kindergarten style crayon, whatever.
Oh yeah. It's
and
perfect.
That's taped up on their mirrors in their bathrooms every night when they're brushing their teeth. They're looking at that stuff. Now, does that mean that my children are perfect and flawless and never have problems? Absolutely not, man. They're aliens. But there's a little more leverage when we're having these conversations. But you mentioned the reticular activating system, and I know you kind of said it quickly, and I know you and I know what that is. For our listeners, could you explain a little bit what that concept is and how that works in our brains, just to anchor that, and then we'll look to wrap this up.
Yeah, so in its most innocent childish form, it's like when you're out on the highway and you're counting cars and you see the yellow Volkswagen, and now all of a sudden you see yellow Volkswagens all the time, right? It's one of those things. But what happens is, and this is straight from the Robbins family, which I love because those guys are so great.
They're awesome. Yeah.
So you have a thought or a picture in your mind, and the more your brain sees that picture, the more it draws a little tiny foundation of a bridge. They're neurotransmitters in your mind. And the more you see that, the more you think about it, the more these neurotransmitters get closer and closer and closer to each other to the point where you now have one constant stream of thought. And once that is buried in your brain or downloaded in your brain, it almost creates the impression that you already own this thing. So what happens is your subconscious, your actions, your awareness, your opportunity seeking, all those things start to peak because involuntarily your brain wants to have that thing, whatever that thing is. And therefore you move and you follow things that will get you there.
And the cool part opportunities and connections that otherwise would be washed out, that you're like, oh, wait a second, there's that client or that opportunity or that moment with that employee, all those become the bridges, right, to manifesting that reality.
Exactly. And the best part about it is this is free. It requires no training. You already have this program downloaded in your brain. It's called your eyes, okay? This reticular activation system is automatic. It works every time. So all you have to do is sit there and focus on the things you want to come into your life, and they will. And I've been doing this my entire life, and it has yet to fail me. So, get yourself in a nice quiet place, get yourself some crayons or get yourself some magazines or a board or a glue or Pinterest or whatever you want to do, and create the puzzle that is your life. Get it in front of you, look at it all the time, and then watch what happens.
Absolutely. Well, and I think the question is like, well, does that really work? I would say it always works. But it works in whatever direction you focus. So if your focus is, why does everything happen to me? Why am I always, shortchanged? Why am I always, well, then your identity is I'm a victim. Your identity is woe is me. Your focus is woe is me. Your brain goes, oh, if that's what you're looking for, I'm going to find you some yellow Volkswagens that validate all the reasons why you are that. So the thing of it is the RAS is working all the time, is exactly as programmed based on your choice of what you want to direct it at. So if you want to direct it as a victim, that's what you're going to get. You want to direct it as a victor, that's what you're going to get.
That's where they come up with the idiom, be careful what you wish for, because it can actually work either way. And it's a responsibility to choose those positive emotions. I know that is absolutely true. You can get lost in some of the other stuff once in a while, but just catch yourself and get right back to it, because again, if you want to attract yourself to something, it better be something good that you want into your life. That's to be sure.
Yeah. Well, it's in any situation, our brains are always overwhelmed by everything that's around us. So the question is, what's it going to pick up? What's it going to filter out? Right? And do you want it to pick up the opportunities and the actions to get you where you want to go, or you want to pick up the validation, the reasons why you can't? It will do either. It is absolutely obedient to your will. So really appreciate you doing a little deep dive on that. I hopefully that is a little bit of leadership candy for all of our listeners out there. Well, Ken, I want to wrap this up by just asking a couple little follow-up questions. First of all, you got a bunch of great things going on. Of course, there is your book. It's available on all the platforms. And I believe it's a relevant book for any leader that's looking to be able to develop an entrepreneurial spirit. To your point, I think, yes, you're emphasizing and validating why it works in the trades. But I think for other folks, there's a lot of great wisdom in there. But what else can people find out about you? You've got this great 8 half-hour webinars. Tell us a little bit about that. Where else can we learn from and continue to deepen our relationship with you?
Well, one of the things that I didn't think was going to be as successful as it was we developed a course. It's literally 8 sessions. It's 8 3-minute videos that you'll watch, and then it sends you off to do a certain task, so that, you don't just read the book and put it up on the shelf and say, well, yeah, Blue Collar Cash, it was great. I don't remember learning anything from it, but it's on the shelf now, so look at me. It's actually a course that a lot of businesses are doing a book club with their members. So they'll buy some books, they'll buy some courses, they'll take the whole class through it. And what I do is I take them through each segment for just a couple of minutes, either pre-recorded where they can watch it whenever they want, or I do it live. And it's pretty cool when you see like a whole group of companies out there that has a whole bunch of employees, and they're all kind of learning and light bulbing at the same time, because when that happens, then the synergy just fires up so fast, and then it's like, get out of their way, let them go. So that's called the Path to a Successful Life. You can find it at kenrusk.com. You can see me on my socials at @KenRuskOfficial. And I'm actually writing another book about corporate culture. And if Blue Collar Cash is the one that you should have your employees read, well, then there's one that I need you to read, because you need to attract these kind of people, yes. And you got to check yourself to make sure that that's what you're after. So that's coming out next year. But it's been a really successful program. I'm really proud of it, and I'm glad I've helped so many people throughout the country with so many of their employees.
That's fantastic. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. And then you also have the Comfort, Peace, and Freedom Foundation. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, here's the thing. My father was a Marine, and he never got to see any action. Thank God. But he still stepped up and served. I didn't do that because I went right to work. However, I always felt like I needed to. So I built the Comfort, Peace, and Freedom Foundation to give scholarships away to young men and women who are coming back from the service, or the sons and daughters of the fallen, first responders or veterans or whatever. And I did it because I wanted to make sure that they had a shot at learning some of the same basic, simple, but very lucrative things that I learned growing up. And I wanted to make sure that I could lessen their learning curve to being an entrepreneur, shorten it up and get them right, doing the right things as quickly as possible. So we give scholarships away to young folks so that they can take the course and they can get on their path to doing what they want with their lives. And it's just been a wonderful thing, and I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to do it more in the future.
Well, as two sons of veterans, I honor and applaud that. That is fantastic. And yeah, they come back with some amazing skills. We did a program a couple years ago for a group called the Wyakin Foundation, and that's their whole mission, is helping, returning vets transition into employment. And we try to do it every couple of years, do a series on leadership and, transitioning successfully. But it's just like, look, you come back with amazing skills that are highly relevant, like they should be getting gobbled up. So love to see that you're helping to create a mindset. It is.
Yeah, it's all about their mindset, as you know. And by the way, the people that you're working with, I'm sure there's people there that would be eligible for one of our scholarships. So please let them know that.
I will relay that to them as well, for sure. They've got a great local mission here. I think they would take advantage.
But yeah, if you're out there dodging bullets, you shouldn't have to worry about anything the rest of your life. I mean, you're out there doing what you do, so I can do what I do.
Yeah.
You're laying in the desert in the heat, dodging, whatever mortars. I mean, come on. We need to take care of these people as best as we can, and I'm trying to do my little part to do that.
Hey, man, that's awesome, Ken. Ken, I want to be very respectful of your time because I know what a busy man and how many demands you are. I thank you so much for gracing our humble podcast with being on the show. Thank you for letting us ask, hopefully, some questions that were a little different than you normally get. And looking forward to getting some links to both your book and your course and your foundation, for that matter, out in the show notes as well. So
happy to do it, Lee. Thank you so much.
Brother, thank you so much as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unleashing Leaders podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss a moment that could be the key to your next breakthrough. Let's stay connected and contribute together by grabbing that @Unleashing Leaders handle on LinkedIn, YouTube, or your favorite network. This is Lee Scott. Keep learning, loving, and leading. Our future and our communities are counting on us.